everyone, welcome back to another video. This one today is all about going right back to basics and learning how to pick up the correct size of bead, how to let the acrylic work for you, and how to ombre with white and pink, and how to build your apex. So first things first, whenever you're starting your client, you're going to make sure that your monomer dish is clean and that you have fresh monomer in there. Any old monomer can be contaminated, so I always just put a little bit of monomer into my monomer dish. It's better to add too little than to add too much, because you don't want to throw monomer away. It is quite expensive, and if you do have any left over after you've done a set of nails, my suggestion would be, if you're starting out, would be to put it into a spare bottle and just use that monomer for practicing rather than just throwing it away. So if we are doing this on a client, we'll have prepped the nails, and I do have a video on nail prepping on my channel. So I will have prepped the nails, cleansed them, and then we need to go in with a dehydrator and an acid-free primer. So the dehydrator, it dries pretty quickly. So what this is going to do, it's going to draw out any excess oils that would be on the client's nail plate. And then we go in with an acid-free primer. So I'm just doing these steps for the sake of the video. Obviously I'm using my ever faithful flexi hand today, and because it doesn't have any natural oils, you don't need to do that. So when I am teaching, and it's day one of acrylic, after we've went through all the contraindications, the diseases and disorders, and the theory of the nail plate, then we will start off with our cuticle bead, our acrylic beads. So there's three different beads that we would do. We would do our free edge bead, we would do our apex bead, and then we would do our cuticle bead. So to know those beads, you need to know how much to pick up and the correct size of ball to pick up and the correct consistency. So we'll go for the consistency first of all. So if I pick up a ball of acrylic and it goes nice and glossy, that's how we know that that is the correct consistency. If I pick a ball up and it's sliding off my brush like that, then we know that it's too wet. And then if I pick a ball up and I've still got powder showing, I know that that bead is way too dry and I can't use that. So the consistency that we're looking for is nice and stable, nice and glossy, and it's not moving. So I get my students just to practice on little pads like this, and then I get them also to practice their bead sizes. So we look at the size of the nail and we look at how much acrylic that we would need for that nail plate. So we went with sort of a semi-length today, and for our free edge I would pick up a bead that size. So before I place it on, I drain out any excess liquid and I place it on the nail, so it's nice and glossy, as we can see, and I let the acrylic just start to work itself. It's self-leveling, so it will start to level out nicely for us, and we just want to guide that down to the free edge. We don't want to pat too much, because by patting that's going to push air into the acrylic and it's going to give us air bubbles. So we just want to make sure that it's nice and level, we're right down to the free edge, and it's not too thick. And that's our first bead. So the second bead, I'm just going to bring this acrylic over because I'm right-handed and I prefer to work from this side. So we're going in now with our apex bead, and this is our biggest bead because this is what's going to be the strength of this nail. So I'm just going to drain out my liquid, and we want to place this one just behind the first bead. And again, we're just going to let it sit for a few seconds, and then we'll press it into place. So we want this one to join and overlap our first bead. And you can see I'm not patting, I'm like pressing and painting downwards towards the free edge. So if I turn the nail to the side, you can see that we've just started to build our little apex. So we're still glossy, which means that it's still in the curing stage and we can move it. Once it starts to mattify, then it's in the second stage of curing and we can't really move it around as much. So now I'm going to go in with our cuticle bead. And drain out the excess liquid. And we're going to pop that just before the cuticle. And we're going to push it up towards the cuticle. Having our brush at a 45-degree angle, that will make sure that it stays nice and flush at the cuticle. And then we're going to press it and pull it down over the rest of the nail. Okay, so I look at the nails from all angles and I can see on that nail we just need a tiny bit of more acrylic in there just to create that apex. When working on the flexi hand, it is much flatter than working on a real hand. So sometimes whenever we're using our beads, sometimes we do have to add just that little bit extra just to take the flatness out. And do any cleaning up with your brush before it starts to mattify. Okay, so if I turn it to the side now, we can see that we've got our apex. And we're just going to let that cure. So as we see, it's still glossy. We need that to go matte and to have like a tapping sound. So if we tap it now, it's like a dull sound. We want to have that type of noise. And when we have that type of noise, then we know that we can start to file. So we can see it's starting to mattify now, but if I get my acrylic brush, it's still like that dull thud. So it's not quite ready to file on. If we were to file on this nail now, the acrylic would just be like rubber and would just come straight off. Okay, so now we've got our tap. It's ready to file. Now I used to do this with my students for them to get their filing technique. So this is the apex here. So we want to keep that as our highest point. So when we're filing, we're going to be working upwards towards that. We're not going to go over this area here until we've filed the rest of the nails. So my filing technique is we start with the side walls first. We make sure they're nice and straight. And then we do the same on the other side. And then if we're doing a coffin shape, I would normally go like this just to make sure that that edge is really, really straight. So now we're going to go in an upward motion. Always working up towards the apex. Just make sure our lower arch is nice and straight and even. So what you do on one side of the nail, you'll also do on the other, and that's what's going to give a nice balanced nail. So we're always working up towards the center. And around the cuticle. This is the area that you'll want to be careful. We don't want to cut our client's cuticles. So you can see with the filing I haven't touched the area that I have marked out. I'm just constantly working up towards it. And always look to the side as well, just to make sure that your apex is still there and that you're happy with the height of it. Again, around the cuticle. I always, whenever I'm doing it, I like hold my client's skin and push it back. So I always end up filing over my own nails as well, but I prefer to do it over myself than over a client. So I'm doing this in real time. I'm not going to speed it up or anything for you. Okay, so we're getting towards the point now where we're coming up to where I've marked on the nail. So I'm just working up towards it. Okay, and now I'm just going to go over it ever so lightly. I'm holding my file like this and I'm just going to very lightly go across. Okay, and then when you're happy with your nail and you've checked from the side and your apex is there, we're going to go over with a buffer. So this is a 180-100 buffer, and this is going to take out these scratches on the nail. So we'll start with the 100 side first. And we just do that all over the nail and at the free edge, and then we'll turn it around and do the softer side. And up at the cuticle. The buffer files shouldn't hurt your clients, neither should the other normal filing, but as long as you're protecting your client's skin by holding it back and very careful around the cuticle, you should be fine. So we've buffed it all in. I normally would go like this to see if there's any ridges and just to double check your apex, and once you're happy with that, you'll give it a cleanse over. And then you're ready for your top coat or your gel polish. So on this nail we're going to do an ombre. We're going to use glass slippers to cap, and we're going to use the Pink Opal and the Snowdrops White. Even though the Pink Opal and the Snowdrops White are core powders, we want to cap it in the glass slippers just so that we don't actually lose the ombre. So I always would ask my clients when they're having an ombre, do they want more white or do they want more pink? So you always take that into consideration as well. Okay, so we're going to start out with our white. We're just going to take a medium-sized bead, drain out any excess, and place it on the nail. Place it on the nail. Press down. So you can see that acrylic starting to self-level already, and I'm just working it down towards the free edge, and then I'm going to turn my brush this way and we're going to feather that white, and that's going to help the blend of the ombre. So we're more or less doing a 50-50 ombre here. Just patting it down very, very lightly. I don't want to create any air bubbles. I just want to make sure that it's nice and even at the free edge. It's a wee bit lopsided, so just giving a little bit more of a press. Okay, and we'll work it back. Okay, so we're going to go in now with our Pink Opal. We'll always drain out our excess, so I'm going to put that just basically where I have done the feathering. So you want to work a little bit wetter when you're doing an ombre. Some people prefer, you know, more white on their ombre. Some people prefer less, more of the pink. It's really up to each individual's taste, really. So I'm just blending that down. Pushing it up towards the middle of the nail to start to create our apex, and then we'll go in with our cuticle. I remember whenever I was first learning to do acrylics, as soon as it was set on the nail, it was panic, you know, let's get it pushed into place as quickly as possible. But now the acrylics are so much better. I mean, I started doing nails back in 1999, and from acrylics back then to today, oh, it's like day and night. Completely different. So much better. The Pink Opal is a nice one to do ombre with. It's a nice subtle ombre you get with it. Plush covers also nice to do ombre with. So I'm just going to go in and do a little bit more just at the back there because it's looking a bit transparent. Okay, and I'm just going to set it there and pat it into place. And then spread it down the rest. Okay, so just to protect that ombre, I'm going to go in with our glass slippers. Do a tiny bit more pink here. Don't be afraid when you're doing an ombre to, you know, feel the need to go into, you know, add more to it. Okay, so we're going to do our apex. Because I've went in with more of the pink opal, the apex is already quite strong. So I'm going to concentrate more on the free edge and the ombre. So you don't want to drag too hard because you don't want to pull it completely off. Okay, I'm happy with that. I'm going to leave it like that and let that cure, and then we can file it. So while I'm just waiting on that curing, I thought I would go in and show you some of the coloured acrylics. And this particular one is Salmon Pink, and it's also Glitterbels. So when we're using coloured acrylics, because they're so highly pigmented, we don't need to use a lot of the powder, and we don't build our apex up when we're using our coloured acrylics. It's really like a polish, like a nail polish. We apply it exactly like a nail polish. You work a little bit wetter so that we can spread it down the nail. So this is our Salmon Pink. So I'm not worrying about apexes, nothing like that. I'm just putting that colour on the nail. So it's just like feather-like touches. And I'm just going to put a little bit here on the free edge again. So I'm going to go in at this angle. I'm just spreading that up. I say, don't really worry, you know, if you feel you have to keep going in and adding more. There's nothing in the rule books to say, oh, you have to do it in 2 beads or you have to do it in, you know, 3 beads of acrylic. You work what is most comfortable for yourself. And if it's more comfortable to add multiple beads, who cares? Who cares? My room is quite cold today, so it's actually taken quite a bit of time to cure. But hopefully by the time I've done this one, this will be ready to file. And once I'm happy with the colour, I'm going to go in with our glass slippers. So you can see that it's quite flat. There's no apex at all there. So I'm going in with a free edge, bead of acrylic. I'm just working that down. Now we're going to pick up a larger bead. This is going to be our apex. Okay, so that's much larger. I'm just going to tap it so that all the powder is away. I'm going to pop it here. So you can see it start to level out already. So I'm going to work with that. I'm just going to push it to where I want it. Always trying to keep within the side walls of the nail, so you always want to keep pressing up. That way your nail isn't going to become very bulky here. And then we're going to go in with our cuticle bead. Again, draining out the excess. And placing on, have my brush at a 45-degree angle. And just patting it around the cuticle area. And then I'll drag it down to blend in with the rest of the acrylic. And that would be your colour application. What I like about using the acrylic colours is when it comes to filing, you can get those really sharp edges. Sometimes when you go in after you've placed your acrylic with gel polish, by the time you've done, you know, your 2 layers of colour and then your top coat, sometimes that sharpness starts to go and you just don't get the same effect. So I prefer now when I'm doing colour to use acrylic. So I always make sure that everything's put away before I start to file. All the lids are put back on my pots. That way they don't get contaminated with any dust. And that my brush is wiped out and placed somewhere safe. So we'll go for this nail. We should have our tap tap sound now. And we do. So we're just going to define the shape of that nail. I'm actually just going to take this off in case I knock it. Okay, so use your filing routine. Start at the sidewalls, make sure they're nice and straight, and I'm holding my finger over the client's skin. So I have my file, it's gone up in like a 45-degree angle, so I'm actually missing their skin. And then we're going to work up towards the centre of the nail. So you can see why I put the clear on, the glass slippers, just to protect that ombre. You can kind of see where, just ever so slightly, where the file hasn't went over, and that's the very, very tip of the apex. And always look at the nail from both sides. I'm just thinning out the free edge. Okay, so we've got our apex on one side and we have it on the other. So always look down the barrel of the nail just to make sure that it's even and you can't see any irregularities. And then I would also look at it from the angle that your client is looking at it. So it would be turning it round and looking at it from this angle. And that way you can see if there's any bumps or anything, you know, at the free edge area. And if you're happy that it's all even, go over with your thumb, make sure you don't feel any lumps. So it should just feel smooth. Yeah. And then we'll go in with our buffer. So our 100 grit side first to remove the scratches from our 180 grit file. And then our 180. So when you're happy with all of that, that's your ombre ready for your top coat. Now I'm going to come back to the coloured acrylic nail that we've done. It's nice and cured. So we can see that the lines, we know that it's a tapered square shaped nail that we've done, but we want to have them really, really straight, really, really defined. And this is the difference between working with coloured acrylic and working with gel polish. You can really, really get those straight edges. So as usual, sidewalls. Make sure they're straight. If they're not straight, you won't get a straight nail. Your nail will be wonky. So you can see already the difference in just doing those few steps. And I'm working up towards our apex in the center of the nail. So with this one, I'm actually going to leave the free edge just that little bit thick, and I'm going to show you how you can make it look like there's a bit of a C curve there. To do it though, I do use an e-file, so if you don't have an e-file, sorry. I'm using a the Brillbird electric drill, but I do have backup drills that I've just purchased off Amazon for I think £40, and they're, you know, they're very good as well. If I remember, the Brillbird one was £287, I think. I bought it a while ago, so I think I maybe bought it about 4 years ago, 3.5, 4 years ago, so my memory's not going back that far, sorry. And then I always finish off as well, just going back up and down the side walls on that free edge. So I've got my apex. So before I go over with the buffer, I'm going to do the little C curve. So to do that, I use, it's like a barrel drill bit. Okay, and I'm just going in at an angle. And I'm using the wider part. Just to create a small C curve. It's ever so slight, but to get, you know, a really, really good C curve on nails this length in this shape, they really should be sculpted. So now I'm going to go over with my 100 side of my buffer. So pink blocks or white blocks will do exactly the same job as this buffer. I just prefer to use sort of the file shape ones. And then that's our coloured acrylic ready for any nail art or top coat. So just give them all a wipe over and I'll do the top coat. So the first one, which was just all pink opal. This is a non-wipe top coat. This is our ombre nail. So again, I always start slightly down from the cuticle. I never go straight in at the cuticle, especially if you're doing colour. You don't want to flood that cuticle with colour. So I usually start about here and push up. I like the way the brushes fan out. And there we go. That is back to basics, acrylic application and filing techniques for 3 different designs. So we've got our all one colour for structure, we've got our ombre, and we've got our coloured acrylic. So thank you for watching the video, taking the time to watch it. If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, hit the button below. And if you hit the notification bell, you won't miss any more of my videos, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!